Hi Year 10, I just thought that I would have a go at doing some really short, quick revision tutorials. So this is the opening stage direction of an Inspector Calls. Now the first thing you need to remember is that this is a play. So when you're writing about the text, you do need to remember to refer to Priestley as the playwright, that it's a play, that it's a performance with an audience. You also know that Priestley has a political agenda. He's a socialist. And I guess with everything that's going on in the world now, the play is as relevant as it was then, as it is today. So Black Lives Matter, COVID-19, hashtag Me Too, all of these movements, all of these situations that are making people think about social responsibility, community, inequality, injustice. Those are the themes and issues that Priestley was highlighting in this play. So if we just take a quick look at the stage direction. So we've got the dining room of a fairly large suburban house belonging to a prosperous manufacturer. So sometimes people forget to talk about the stage directions in their writing, and the stage directions are as important. You know, Priestley has chosen to give us this information, and he's chosen to give us snippets about how a character speaks and behaves, and sometimes the dialogue might be saying one thing, but the way they say it or the body language might be telling us something else. So straight away, we know that this is a family who are prosperous. Okay, so in terms of language analysis, you could think about the connotations of that word. It has good solid furniture of the period. The general effect is substantial and heavily comfortable, but not cosy and home-like. So it's kind of setting you up for the mood and the tone of the piece. I'm just going to skip forward. So at the rise of the curtain, the four Burlings and Gerald are seated at the table with Arthur Burling at one end, his wife at the other, Eric downstage and Sheila and Gerald seated upstage. Edna, the parlour maid, is just clearing the table, which has no cloth, of dessert plates and champagne glasses, and then replacing them with decanter of port, cigar box and cigarettes. Port glasses are already on the table. All five are in the evening dress of the period, the men in tails and white ties, not dinner jackets. Now straight away we have the social hierarchy. Edna, as you know, only kind of speaks a couple of times, but it helps to highlight her role as the subservient working class. She's symbolic, like Eva Smith, of the people who have limited power and very little in terms of a voice. She's just there to serve, and that's her function. But it just highlights straight away that we have this hierarchy in place. And then you've got all the trappings of wealth. So all of the items that are mentioned, the champagne, the decanter, the port, the cigars, are all symbols of wealth and class. So moving on, you've got Mr. Burling, this heavy-looking, rather portentous man in his mid-50s, fairly easy manners but rather provincial in his speech. So straight away we're given the impression that he's not high class, but that he's possibly worked his way up the social ladder. He's made his money through business. He wasn't born into wealth, unlike his wife. So Mrs. Burling, about 50, a rather cold woman, and her husband's social superior. So the adjective cold revealing something of her manner, but also her emotions, and it's foreshadowing the type of person that she is. Also the fact that it mentions that she's her husband's social superior. So again, we're already thinking about class and the importance of class in society. Sheila is a pretty girl in her early 20s. She is very pleased with life and rather excited. So she's presented to be kind of naive, but also we use the word coddled. You know, she's been protected by her parents. She's lived in like this perfect little bubble, and she's got no idea about the struggles of the working class. She's got no idea about the problems in society. Gerald Croft is an attractive chap about 30, rather too manly to be a dandy, but very much the easy, well-bred young man about town. Now again, we're being presented with a character who is higher in class, a member of the aristocracy, well-bred as well. The idea that people might seem to be good people because they've come from good family stock. And obviously as the play develops, we realise that somebody's worth can't just be determined by their class. And lastly, we've got Eric, who's in his early 20s, not quite at ease, half shy, half assertive. Now, the stage direction for Eric, again, kind of links to the fact that although he might have had a brilliant upbringing and wealth and education and all the things that Burling didn't have, he hasn't maybe had the father figure that he wanted. He hasn't had a dad that he could confide in. So again, we're seeing the hints of the problems that are to come. And that is the stage direction that introduces us to the the theme of capitalism, the themes of class, the idea about social hierarchy, and obviously the other characters to come into it are the inspector and obviously Eva Smith and her suicide. So that is your introduction to An Inspector Calls.